trust in the chaos. Today we're going to talk about purpose in the chaos. Now, I'm going to go back to the Baltimore Catechism, everyone's favorite quote, which is that you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. And that's kind of the purpose. But outside of prayer and relationship, how do we do that? And that is by fulfilling God's will through our vocation. Now, how the heck do we find out our vocation? You go through discernment. That's a whole different topic we can talk about later. But let's say you found out what you're going to do. For me personally, I just discerned by the time I was 13, 7th grade, I was going to become a music teacher. I had a really great music teacher in elementary school, and she really encouraged my love. And now you can see I have maintained that. I am now 26, a whole whopping 13 years later, going into my 5th year of teaching, starting next week. And I'm still on summer vacation. As you can tell by the dirt on my neck, the lack of makeup and the hat. Most teachers don't feel like putting in effort when we're not at school. It's a great time. So, one of my favorite things of all time, a favorite platitude, is that God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. There's a great meme of that quote, but with a koala bear and never mind. So, how did God qualify me in all the chaos? So, there's a smaller case, and then, of course, I will do the lean with mental illness. So, the first big one, outside of my depression and anxiety, which is its own bucket of worms we're about to get into, is I had something called vocal nodules. Vocal nodules are probably something you've heard of, thanks to a little movie called Pitch Perfect. The character Brittany gets them, and they sit on your windpipe and crush your dreams. And I had been diagnosed about a year prior to that movie coming out, so it was just a lot of those jokes. But in all reality, as someone who wanted to become a music teacher, not being able to sing or talk for long periods of time is kind of a letdown. I ended up going through a year of, about 9 months, of speech therapy and singing therapy. Fun fact, before I went through that, I used to talk down here like a chain smoker. It was hot. But through surgery and speech therapy, I was able, hi pup, this is my dog Noah. Right, puppies? Her purpose in life is to chase the rabbits in our backyard and eat them. I wish I were kidding. We also have a pet rabbit, so things get really complicated around here. But how was I supposed to teach if I had these vocal nodules? So, again, through speech therapy, through surgery, I was able to recoup, and for most people, that could have been the end of your singing career, the end of your teaching career, the end of your great dream. But I knew that I was called to be a teacher. So, how did God qualify me through this obstacle? Well, God qualified me in a few different ways. One, through the process of my vocal health journey, I was able to understand my voice, understand my habits, and how to turn this into a longevity career. Because fun fact, a lot of teachers, coaches, which I'm both, get vocal nodes. It just happens. We talk for a living. And it's exhausting. That, and it really helped me in my teaching. When I teach my 6th grade unit, my 6th grade music class, we go over a whole unit on vocal health. And I talk about my experience. The kids look at actual vocal nodules. If you're really interested in vocal nodules, I have another little series on my channel called Vocal Nodules Suck. Feel free to look at them. But through that, I taught my kids, and a lot of them have kind of changed their vocal habits. Hey, pup. And a lot of them have also changed their hearing habits, because I figured I'm talking about vocal health, might as well talk about hearing health, because fun fact, thanks to the lovely invention of earbuds, most of us are losing our hearing like 30s, 40s, the equivalent that you should have in like your 50s, 60s. So it's an actual generational problem. My dog's trying to eat a fly, I'm sorry. So God qualified me through this really crappy awful situation of how do I teach this to my kids and how do I make them aware? It's to the point where I was in a quinceañera last night. You can check out my Instagram. And the girl's younger brother is now going to be in 7th grade. And he walks up to me after the mariachi band comes in, and he's like, Mrs. Hartz, everything about vocal and hearing health is out the window tonight, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, pretty much, John. So that's making an impact. Or when the kids are working on a project in my class, they'll look at each other when the music's way too loud and be like, bro, you're going to blow out your hearing. It's kind of funny. But that's a situation, an obstacle in which God used it to qualify me to my called vocation. All right, let's get on to the fun part, the main reason why we're here. The depression and anxiety. This is obviously a large obstacle. And it's still not fun. And it still sucks. And I still experience it. A lot of this channel is me being like happy and perky and super great all the time about being on the other side, which is true. I've gone through a lot of it. And I'm lucky enough to be on the other side of most of it. But that doesn't mean I don't struggle. If we're being perfectly honest, I almost hospitalized myself back in March. And I'm an adult. You gotta do what you gotta do. So, how did God use this obstacle of depression and anxiety? So, with this, I obviously suffered a lot. And God kind of told me when I was 18, it's like, you're gonna suffer. It's gonna be a thing. And I went through a solid 18 to about 22, solid 4 years of where it was really dark, really bad. I mean, it was bad previously, and, we're working on it now. But those 4 years, I'd say, were the worst. But those were also the 4 years where I learned the most. I learned what a good friendship is, how to cope the correct way, how to not cope. Some of the things I did to cope poorly were kind of throw myself into relationships and make that the Band-Aid, which I'm going to do a whole other video on. There was also a semester where I kind of became an alcoholic and was drunk 3 to 4 days a week and smashing beer cans in a frat basement. It was horrible. And understanding those things now and using that experience to make me a better person. Now, how does that come to the classroom? Well, I work in not a horrible area, but it's not as privileged as most. I teach in the area of Gary and Southside Chicago, and I have some really incredible kids, because they've been through so much, and they're still good people for the most part. That being said, they're going to struggle in different ways that are really hard and adult issues when you're 13. So I've had kids who have really bad family situations, kids who are in bad relationships, and through my depression and anxiety, I've been able to be empathetic, to have compassion, to give some understanding to what they're going through. I'm not saying everyone I deal with is mentally debilitated, I guess. We all have our own struggles, but some of the kids I do talk to and I have close relationships with are seeking that extra help, and I've helped nudge people in that direction. But a lot of the times they just need someone to listen to them and to know they're not alone. Something else I'll be coming back into in another video. But because I felt so alone, and I was destitute and had no one to turn to because I felt as though that would be weak. I've really shown my kids that struggle's okay, and you're gonna hurt, and there's gonna be things way above your pay grade that you don't know how to deal with, and go find somebody, talk to an adult, talk to your friend, maybe get a mental health professional involved. But having that open communication and empathy is huge. My youth group, I've got some kids who are struggling. I'm going to go back to the quinceañera I was in last night. So, for those of you who don't know anything about quinceañeras, I was the exact same until literally last night. One of my choir kids turned 15, and in Hispanic culture, what it is traditionally, back a long time ago, ages till about 14, the woman was being trained in household duties. And then once you turn 15, that's kind of, you've graduated from that, you're ready to seek a husband. Life expectancy is pretty long, gender roles and gender norms, we can talk about that later. But it's traditionally coming out, I am a woman now. And it's really maintained, especially in the Americas. And it's a huge thing. I teach with a pretty decent-sized Hispanic population. I've been to no quinceañeras before yesterday, and I'm going to 3 before November. It's gonna be great. So the girl whose quinceañera I was in, and hopefully she doesn't mind me using this story, is someone who was new to our school this past year. And she had a tough time adjusting to high school life, and she had been to Catholic school, and this was her first public school, which I totally get. She had a really tough time kind of making friends and coping, and I was always super open and honest with her, and it got to the point where I could look at her and I'm like, you're not okay. Do you want to go chat? And we kept that line of communication open, just to the point where if she needed it, she knew she could go to somebody. Because sometimes talking to your parents about how you're not feeling the greatest, all your parents want to do is fix, and they want to make sure you're okay, and they don't want you to feel bad or suffer ever, because they're your parents. But at the same time, it's super helpful to have someone who's kind of been there, to have a shoulder to lean on, to have that conversation with. And that's kind of what I provide for my kids. Going back to the girl in specific, she came in one day in the choir and was like, hey, you want to be a madrina? And I'm like, cool. What's that? So essentially, a madrina is a godmother. They present them with a gift at the Thanksgiving Mass. There is typically a Mass portion with the quinceañera, and then the reception. So I was to present the Blessed Mother bouquet for her to give to the Blessed Mother after communion, which was really cool. And not only was I, very flattered that she thought of me, I was the only really non-family member who was an adult to have a part in it. I was also the only white person in a authoritative role in this event. Now, in a quinceañera as well, they have a court of honor. The ladies are called the damas, and I'm going to butcher this. The gentlemen are chambelán. I said chamberlain during choir camp, and that just led to a whole bunch of laughter. But she had, I'd say 5 damas, and 1 escort, and then they hired dancers. But most of her court was choir kids. And it's all choir kids that I have a personal relationship, and I've done similar things where I look at you and I'm like, how you doing? And just having that openness where they know that, like, I struggle with things, and then come to me with their stuff, and we can kind of talk it out and come up with an action plan. Again, disclaimer for the 47th time, I'm not a mental health professional. I'm just a girl with some experience to be a listening ear and help direct people in ways they need to go. Hey, maybe you need to talk to this friend about this situation, or hey, maybe you should talk to your parents about this, or maybe we should go try to find the school social worker and get you into a program. Whatever it is, I'm just the intermediary. But I looked, and for those of you who don't know, which is not of you, the school that I'm working at is entering its 10th year this next year, and I'm the longest music teacher. Everyone's only lasted 2 years, and I've lasted, now going into my 4th there. And there was no program when I showed up. My first year, I taught a piano class using iPads. It was abysmal. But now going into year 4, I've created a choir program. We're launching the theater program this year. I look at this quinceañera, and I see these kids who have formed a community, who have each other to lean on, who are each other's best friends, who know that they can talk each other through anything. And through the bond of music and through the bond of just openness and humanity, they found each other. And most teachers will tell you they are overworked and underpaid, especially when you're trying to build something from scratch like I've been. And that night made all of the struggle worth it. All of my depression and anxiety, every little dark nook and cranny finally had some light on it, because I know that because of me going through these awful dark pits and feeling so alone and wishing someone was there and how someone would have helped me, I'm now paying that forward. God qualified me for this job. He didn't call me because, let me tell you, teaching rap and bachata as a really white woman from, like, basically Wisconsin? No. But because of the experiences that were put in my life, I'm able to be there for these kids. And I'm using my choir kids as the main example because I see them the most, and I pour my most into that program, so they know me. And it's kind of hard to have live chats in terms of a, all right, let's talk about Johann Sebastian Bach and how he had 20 children. But it's way easier when we're talking about this piece in which we're talking about the struggles we go through and how we sing for each other. And those conversations just come up so much more organically. If you would have told me when I was 13 that you're going to live in Indiana and you're going to teach in a low-income area to a mostly Hispanic and African-American community, I would have laughed in your face. But God's plans are so much better. Did I have to go through some garbage? Abso-freaking-lutely. Do I still go through some garbage? Abso-freaking-lutely. Am I still an emotional wreck? Isn't everybody. But through these experiences, God qualified me. He qualified the called. And that's what is so important. Again, this is just my experience, but I can almost promise you that God is using whatever crap you are going through to either make you a stronger person or to pay it forward, whether it's to one person or an entire class or an entire program or your family. God is preparing you for something with this. I don't know what, and I know you're probably hearing this if you're in the darkest point and you're like, how is God preparing me by putting me through literal hell? He just is, man. You just gotta trust through the chaos to find the purpose in it. So, let's end in prayer. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Lord God, thank you for this opportunity and this platform to speak about such an important issue. I want to thank you personally for helping me find my purpose in the chaos. And I pray for those who are watching to find purpose in whatever they're going through, to seek out whatever help they need, whether it's through a friend, a spiritual director, a mental health professional, talking to their parents, whatever they need. Lord, please help them have the strength to find it and the strength to work through it, because it's ugly. But we know that you're there and that you will make even the darkest light. The darkness cannot overcome it. Please be with us, Lord. In the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Just so you know, things coming up, we're going to talk about how mental illness affects your relationship with your friends, romantic relationships. I don't know, I got a bunch of ideas or in mass and I wrote them down. Isn't that fun? Again, follow me on my Instagram, which is @TrustInTheChaos. Post daily, or I try. School year's coming up, so send some blessings for me and my kids. All right, have a great night.